All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to tackle a huge question. What's the one thing that connects every single living thing on this planet, from the tiniest bacteria all the way up to us? The answer, of course, is reproduction. It's that basic, fundamental drive to keep life going.
But let's start with something that's kind of weird when you think about it. Unlike eating or breathing, an organism doesn't actually need to reproduce to survive, right? I mean, day to day, it's not essential. Plus, it takes a ton of energy. So, why even do it? Okay, so here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at the blueprint of life. Then, we'll check out the two major strategies life uses to pass that blueprint on, basically making copies versus mixing things up. And finally, we'll see how it all plays out. So that big why question, well, the answer is hiding inside every single one of your cells, in the blueprint for how you're built. And that blueprint, of course, is DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. It's basically the ultimate instruction manual for making proteins. And those proteins build, well, everything. Your eyes, your hair, the whole shebang. So when you strip it all down, reproduction is really all about one thing: making copies of that DNA. But here's where it gets really interesting. That copying process, it's never perfect. I mean, think about it. No chemical reaction in the universe is 100% flawless. So every single time DNA gets copied, these tiny little errors, or as we call them variations, can sneak their way in. And this is huge, because those little mistakes, those variations, they are the absolute foundation of evolution. This is what drives all of life's incredible diversity. So you've got this incredible balancing act, right? On one hand, consistency is great for an individual organism. It helps it fit perfectly into its environment. But on the other hand, variation is what saves the entire species when things go sideways. Imagine the climate suddenly changes. That variation means there's a chance, just a chance, that some individuals will have what it takes to survive. All right, so if being consistent is so important, what's the easiest, most direct way to do it? Well, that leads us right into our first big strategy: asexual reproduction, the art of making copies.
First up, we have fission. This is about as simple as it gets, and it's what things like amoeba and bacteria do. The parent cell just makes a copy of its DNA, stretches out a bit, and then, poof, it splits right in two. You're left with two identical daughter cells. It's super fast and super efficient. Then you've got something called fragmentation. Organisms like Spirogyra, a type of algae, do this. The parent organism just breaks apart into a bunch of pieces. And here's the cool part: every single one of those pieces can grow into a whole new individual, a perfect clone of the parent. And how about budding? You see this in an organism called Hydra. A little outgrowth, basically a mini-me, starts to form on the parent's body. It grows and develops into a tiny, complete individual, and then it just pops off and goes about its business. Pretty neat, right?
Now, plants are the absolute champions of this copying game. They use something called vegetative propagation. This means they can grow brand new plants from just a piece of the parent, a root, a stem, sometimes even a leaf. And this is a massive advantage. It's way faster than waiting for a seed to grow. It's also how we get plants like bananas, which can't even make seeds anymore. Last but not least in our asexual lineup, spore formation. Think about bread mold. It releases thousands and thousands of these tiny little spores. Each one is wrapped in this super tough protective wall, so they can survive just about anything. They just hang out, waiting for the perfect moist spot to land on, and then they start to grow. Okay, so asexual reproduction is fast, it's efficient, but that variation we talked about, it happens super slowly. So, to really kick things into high gear, evolution came up with a game-changing idea: sexual reproduction, the power of mixing.
But wait a second. This introduces a huge problem. If you just take all the DNA from parent number 1 and all the DNA from parent number 2 and mash them together,
Well, the kid is going to have double the DNA. And if they do that, you can see where this is going. It would be a genetic nightmare. So how did life figure this out?
The solution is, well, it's brilliant. Life came up with specialized cells called gametes. You know them as sperm and eggs. And here's their superpower. They only carry half the normal amount of DNA. That way, when they combine, the new organism gets a full, correct set of instructions. Problem solved.
So here's the bottom line, the big trade-off. Asexual reproduction is all about speed and making perfect copies. It's awesome if your environment is stable and never changes. Sexual reproduction, on the other hand, is all about creating variety. By mixing up the DNA from two parents, you get brand new combinations, which is the absolute best survival kit for a world that's always in flux.
Okay, so let's see how these two big ideas actually work in the real world. We'll start with the plants around us, and then we'll take a look at, well, us. So for flowering plants, the flower is where all the action is. You've got the male part, the stamen, which makes pollen, and you've got the female part, the pistil, which holds the egg cells. The first and most important step is called pollination. That's just the process of getting that pollen from point A to point B.
So let's trace this whole process out. Step 1, pollination happens and the pollen lands on the stigma. Step 2, a little tube actually grows down into the ovary so the male gamete can fuse with the egg. That's fertilization. This new cell, the zygote, starts growing into an embryo, which gets tucked away safely inside a seed. And for the grand finale, the ovary around it ripens into a fruit, which is basically a tasty package designed to get that seed somewhere new. Now for humans, it's all about two very different, very specialized cells. You've got the sperm from the male, which is tiny and has a tail. It's built for swimming, for a long journey. And then you have the egg, or ovum, from the female. It's huge in comparison, and it's loaded with all the nutrients needed to get a new life started. And it all comes down to this one moment, fertilization. One single sperm makes it through and fuses with the egg. Those two half blueprints combine to make one complete set. And just like that, you have a totally new, totally unique individual. That single cell starts dividing, becoming an embryo, which then finds a home in the uterus to begin the incredible 9-month process of becoming a baby. So when you boil it all down, what's the big takeaway here? It's that whether life is making a simple copy of itself or going through the complex dance of mixing DNA, the end goal is the same: creating variation. That diversity is what gives life its resilience. It's the engine that lets it adapt and ultimately survive.
And that leaves us with one last big question to chew on. Our world is changing, and it's changing faster than ever before. So looking to the future, which strategy do you think has the edge? Is it the lightning speed of making perfect copies, or is it the incredible creative power that comes from mixing things up?